How you doing, everybody? My name is Dr. Sammy BAYA. Please welcome back to my YouTube channel. Narcissism, full argument. Trump, Zelensky, White House meeting descends into shouting match. That's the title of this video. The meeting between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House was intended to be a diplomatic encounter aiming to strengthen ties between the United States and Ukraine. However, it quickly devolved into a shouting match, providing a rare and dramatic glimpse into the often tense dynamics of high-stakes international diplomacy. The eruption of discord was not just a moment of personal conflict, but a reflection of the underlying power struggles deeply rooted in issues of narcissism, pride, and personal egos that overshadowed the diplomatic objectives of the meeting. At the heart of the altercation was a clash of personalities, with both leaders known for their strong-willed, often combative natures. Trump, a man whose leadership style is notoriously confrontational and characterized by a sense of personal entitlement, found himself face-to-face with Zelensky, a relatively new leader, trying to navigate the complexities of international relations while contending with Russia's growing aggression in his country. For Zelensky, the White House meeting was not only about securing military aid, but also about demonstrating his political acumen on the world stage. The tension in the room escalated quickly, with Trump demanding that Zelensky take a firmer stance against corruption in Ukraine, a demand that seemed less about the interests of the United States and more about leveraging the situation for his own political advantage. Trump's narcissistic tendencies were evident in the way he attempted to assert control over the conversation, attempting to direct the dialogue based on his personal preferences instead of working collaboratively with Zelensky. His manipulation of the situation reflected a broader strategy of using personal relationships to achieve political outcomes that were favorable to him. Zelensky, who came to the table seeking military assistance and political support for his embattled nation, was caught in a difficult position. On one hand, he had to maintain Ukraine's integrity and sovereignty, and on the other hand, he faced immense pressure from a powerful American leader who sought to use his position to extract favors. Zelensky's response to Trump's demands was not passive but rather laced with frustration. His words, though measured, conveyed a clear message. Ukraine needed more than just verbal support from the US. It required tangible, meaningful assistance. When Trump dismissed his pleas, the dynamic shifted from diplomacy to confrontation. In the midst of the shouting match, it became apparent that both leaders were acting from a place of self-interest, driven by the need to maintain their images as powerful and in control. Trump's narcissism was laid bare, with his efforts to belittle Zelensky serving as a reminder of his need to dominate any conversation he was part of. Meanwhile, Zelensky's struggle to maintain his composure and assert his country's needs showed the pressures he faced in balancing national interests with the demands of a more powerful leader. The fallout from this meeting reverberated well beyond the walls of the White House. Zelensky's public image as a leader trying to bridge the gap between his war-torn nation and the West became somewhat tarnished, with critics questioning his ability to stand up to the likes of Trump. On the other hand, Trump's actions were perceived by some as a display of authoritarian tendencies, using his position not just to influence foreign policy, but to manipulate allies into doing his bidding for personal political gain. Narcissism often involves a sense of entitlement and a lack of empathy for others, and in this meeting, both leaders demonstrated these traits in abundance. Trump's inability to understand or acknowledge Zelensky's plight, coupled with his insistence on framing the discussion around his own political needs, reflected a lack of empathy for the people of Ukraine. For Trump, the stakes were never about Ukraine's survival or the fight against Russian aggression. It was about using the meeting to bolster his own narrative and strengthen his political base. In the process, he alienated a leader who needed American support more than ever. For Zelensky, the encounter was a test of his leadership, one that he had not anticipated would be so fraught with personal confrontation. His response to Trump's domineering approach was a mixture of defensiveness and frustration, demonstrating the inherent challenges of negotiating with a leader who viewed everything, even diplomacy, through the lens of personal gain. While Zelensky may have hoped for a diplomatic breakthrough, the meeting devolved into an arena where the emotional needs and egos of the two men collided in a way that rendered any productive conversation nearly impossible. The narcissistic behaviors displayed in this meeting were not isolated incidents, but rather indicative of the broader patterns of behavior that had shaped Trump's presidency. From his frequent use of personal relationships to further his own goals, to his disregard for established norms of diplomacy, Trump's style of leadership was one of manipulation, self-promotion, and ego-driven decision-making. His interactions with world leaders, including Zelensky, often seemed to prioritize personal loyalty over national interest, creating an atmosphere where diplomacy was secondary to personal gain. On the other hand, Zelensky's background as a comedian turned president meant he approached politics with a sense of pragmatism and humility. However, the meeting with Trump tested his ability to stand firm in the face of pressure. While his frustration was clear, his more reserved approach to leadership ultimately worked against him in the shouting match. His attempts to maintain composure were undermined by the more aggressive posturing of Trump, who, as a seasoned negotiator, seemed to be more adept at using verbal aggression to get what he wanted. The aftermath of the meeting left both leaders with questions about their future relationship, and the fallout further complicated US-Ukraine relations. For Trump, the meeting served as yet another opportunity to assert his dominance on the global stage, demonstrating to his supporters that he would not be intimidated by foreign leaders. For Zelensky, however, it was a harsh reminder of the vulnerability that comes with depending on the whims of a narcissistic leader who sees international diplomacy through a personal lens rather than a national one. The narcissism at play during this meeting also highlighted the dangers of leaders who prioritize their own self-image over the welfare of their nations or the global community. In the case of Trump, the meeting revealed how his personal needs often took precedence over diplomatic protocols, which in turn weakened the very alliances that the United States had spent decades cultivating. It became clear that his approach to foreign relations was rooted more in personal calculation than in strategic thinking, and his outbursts further alienated those he was supposed to work with. In contrast, Zelensky, despite his own limitations, had the weight of his country's future on his shoulders. His outbursts during the meeting were not mere tantrums, but a reaction to the growing realization that his position as president was fraught with difficulties, including navigating relationships with powerful, often unpredictable leaders like Trump. The emotional toll of these negotiations was evident as Zelensky struggled to assert his nation's sovereignty in the face of constant pressure from a narcissistic president who viewed every diplomatic encounter as an opportunity for self-aggrandizement. In conclusion, the shouting match between Trump and Zelensky was a perfect storm of personal egos, narcissism, and conflicting national interests. While both men sought to assert their dominance in the meeting, it was clear that the real losers were the broader interests, international diplomacy, and the fragile relationship between the United States and Ukraine. The event served as a stark reminder of the dangers of narcissistic leadership, where personal ambitions and self-interest overshadow the need for cooperative, empathetic solutions in the complex arena of international relations. Now, let me quickly give you traits of narcissistic leadership with examples. Number one, grandiosity. Narcissistic leaders often have an inflated sense of their own importance, abilities, and accomplishments. They believe they are exceptional and deserve special treatment. For example, a CEO who constantly takes credit for the company's success and expects others to praise and admire their leadership, even though the success may be as a result of collective team effort. Then another trait of narcissistic leadership is a need for admiration. Narcissistic leaders crave attention and approval from others. They may constantly seek validation and admiration from their subordinates, colleagues, or the public. For example, a political leader who frequently hosts rallies or social media campaigns that focus on self-promotion and ensures media coverage that highlights their achievements or personal brand. Another trait of narcissistic leadership is entitlement. Narcissistic leaders feel that they are entitled to special privileges and rewards, often disregarding rules, norms, or the contributions of others. They expect to be treated with deference. For example, a manager who takes credit for a project that was mainly completed by their team and demands a larger share of any rewards or recognition, even though they did not contribute as much. Then the other trait of narcissistic leadership is lack of empathy. Narcissistic leaders often fail to understand or care about the feelings, needs, or concerns of others. They may make decisions that benefit themselves at the expense of their team members. For example, a leader who makes abrupt cuts to employees' benefits without consulting or considering how it might affect their staff's morale or well-being. Another trait of narcissistic leadership is exploitativeness. Narcissistic leaders may use others for personal gain without regard for the consequences or harm caused to those individuals. For example, a business leader who takes advantage of employees' hard work by pushing them to work long hours with little reward, only to present the results as their own in order to secure a promotion. Then there's arrogance. A narcissistic leader often exhibits a sense of superiority, believing that they are more talented, capable, or deserving than others. This can result in dismissive or condescending behavior towards others. For example, a team leader who belittles the ideas and suggestions of team members during meetings, claiming that only their vision is worth pursuing and disregards input from others. Then we have manipulative behavior. Narcissistic leaders can be highly manipulative, using others to achieve their own ends. They often employ tactics such as guilt-tripping, gaslighting, or leveraging power dynamics to get what they want. For example, a CEO who undermines employees in meetings to make them feel insecure, thereby fostering a sense of dependency and increasing the likelihood that they will comply with the leader's demands. Then, the other trait of a narcissistic leader is emotional volatility. Narcissistic leaders may react disproportionately to perceived criticism or failure. They often struggle with handling negative feedback, and they may retaliate aggressively when their ego is bruised. For example, a high-ranking executive who loses their temper in a meeting after a junior staff member points out a flaw in their plan, responding with hostility or aggression to shut down the criticism. The other trait of narcissistic leadership is focus on image and reputation. Narcissistic leaders often place more importance on their public image and reputation than on the well-being of their organization or its employees. They may manipulate situations to make themselves look better. For example, a leader who prioritizes organizing public events to boost their public persona rather than focusing on internal company issues, ignoring the morale of employees or the need for operational improvements. Then, the other trait of narcissistic leadership is inability to accept criticism. Narcissistic leaders often have fragile egos, and they struggle to accept any form of criticism or feedback, perceiving it as a personal attack rather than constructive feedback. For example, a department head who becomes defensive and even retaliates against an employee who offers feedback on their leadership, perhaps leading to punitive actions such as reassignment or discipline for the employee. The other trait of narcissistic leadership is narrow vision. Narcissistic leaders often focus primarily on their own agenda and personal goals, which may limit their ability to see the broader picture or consider the long-term consequences of their actions. For example, a startup founder who disregards customer feedback and focuses only on expanding their own brand without considering the actual needs of the market, leading to poor product reception. Now, while narcissistic leaders may be charismatic and highly driven, their self-serving behaviors can negatively affect the team and organization in the long run. Over time, such leaders may create toxic work environments, decrease employee morale, and stifle collaboration. Successful leadership usually requires empathy, self-awareness, and the ability to put others' needs and the collective success of the team above personal gain. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you did learn a thing or two. Now, remember this one thing about narcissistic leaders. They are known for grandiosity. They have this inflated sense of their own importance, abilities, and accomplishments. They believe they're exceptional and deserve special treatment. They believe they're more important than everybody else. They have this need for constant admiration. They have this entitlement nature. They lack empathy. They exploit others. They are arrogant. They are highly manipulative. They have this emotional volatility in them. And they focus on image and reputation. They are incapable of accepting criticism. And they have narrow vision, which focuses on their own agenda and personal goals. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not done so. Please subscribe. Hey, drop a comment, share this video widely to all those who may need it. Thank you. Catch you later in the next video. Let's make this video go viral. Let's make this video go viral, please. If you love this video, please help me in making this video go viral. Thank you.